Spotlight, lectures and performances on and around Albany State University.
Good evening and welcome to our premiere evening of our 6th Annual Poetry Festival, sponsored by the College of Arts and Humanities and the Department of English and Modern Languages, and funded in part by Title III. We are so pleased to have you here with us this evening, and we would like to welcome you on behalf of the university. We know that we're in for quite an evening with both Haki Madabuti and Sonia Sanchez. So we've had a wonderful day of poetry so far, and we expect that it's just going to continue to get better. So I'm going to invite Dr. Stephanie Hankerson Mr. Clemens. Mr. Clemens, who is a freshman computer science major. And after Mr. Clemens, we will hear from Dr. Hankerson with the introduction, and then we will hear from our poets, and they are the ones that we have been waiting, so anxiously to hear. So, Mr. Clemens.
Good evening, and welcome to the 6th Annual Poetry Festival here at Albany State University. Tonight, we are excited to present two literary greats whose contribution to the arts spans decades. Their collaborative efforts that call for a cultural revolution through arts and ideas helped bring about a movement that changed how we view art. In his pivotal essay, The Black Arts Movement, Larry Neal writes that, quote, "It is this natural reaction to an alien sensibility that informs the cultural attitudes of the black arts and the Black Power movement. It is a profound ethical sense that makes a black artist question a society in which art is one thing and the actions of men another. The Black Arts Movement, the Black Arts Movement believes that your ethics and your aesthetics are one," unquote. It is in the spirit of the Black Arts Movement that we are here tonight to join with one another in a celebration of voices, the many voices of the Black experience. From its beginnings on slave ships, to the blues of the people furthest down, to jazz riffs of the Harlem Renaissance, to the functional relevance of the Black Arts Movement, to the percussive beats of hip-hop and rap, we join together in one communal voice that champions reform through love, love of self, love of community, and love of family. Albany State is deeply honored to have, as part of our Many Voices reading, two individuals whose art spoke directly to the needs and aspirations of humanity as they spread messages of hope, renewal, empowerment, love, and responsibility. Tonight, we are honored to have with us Dr. Sonia Sanchez and Dr. Haki Madabuti.
Good evening, everyone. That was I think that was the introduction, so I should be able to sit down a little bit faster. But I will say this, as I was looking over the accomplishments of our poets, it made me think about how I'm so blessed to have been born when I was born. I was born in 1971, so I was right in the midst of when they were doing all of that wonderful work that allowed a brown-skinned girl like me to have a sense of identity and have pride in that identity, to want my Afro puffs to be bigger, to look at Cicely Tyson and think she was one of the most beautiful women I had ever seen, to be able to sit with my parents and watch Roots. And even my dolls, my parents refused to get me, they only were going to get me black dolls. And I remember one Christmas, I looked down at the doll and I said, "This is the same doll that I got last year. It looks just like the last one." And my father looked at me and said, "Well, baby, now you got twins." So I was very, very blessed by them pressing forth the importance that children should have a sense of identity that I'm truly thankful for. So I would first like to introduce Dr. Sonia Sanchez, and she is one of the most prominent writers from the Black Arts Movement, and even, of course, today. She speaks internationally on Black culture and literature, women's liberation, peace, and racial justice. Finding her voice in poetry Sanchez evolved from a shy child with a stutter into a force in the Black Power movement of the 1960s. She was also in the forefront of the Black Studies movement and taught the first course in the country on Black women, where we were blessed to hear her tell us the story of how that came about this afternoon. A prolific author, Sanchez has written more than 16 books, including Morning Haiku, Homegirls and Hand Grenades, for which she won the American Book Award, Shake Loose My Skin, Like the Singing Coming Off the Drums, Does Your House Have Lions, and Wounded in the House of a Friend. She has also published numerous plays, including Black Cats and Uneasy Landings, and I'm Black When I'm Singing, I'm Blue When I Ain't. Sanchez is one of 20 African-American women featured in Freedom Sisters, which is an interactive traveling museum exhibition, which brings to life African-American women who have fought for equality for all Americans. She is also a sponsor of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom and serves on the board of Madre, an international women's human rights organization that uses human rights to advocate social justice. Some of her other honors, among many, include the Outstanding Arts Award from the Pennsylvania Coalition of 100 Black Women, the Community Service Award from the National Black Caucus of State Legislatures, a Pew Fellowship in the Arts, in which she received in 92-93, and the Langston Hughes Poetry Award. The first presidential fellow at Temple University, Sanchez held the Laura Cornell Chair in English at Temple from 1977 to 1999. An in-demand speaker and performer, Sanchez has traveled extensively reading her poetry at campuses across the globe. And let's welcome Dr. Sonia Sanchez. And next, I would like to introduce, I'm sorry, I didn't even ask my directive. Am I supposed to introduce both of them at once? Sure. So Dr. Hakeem Madabuti was a member of the Black Arts Movement and has published more than 20 books of poetry, nonfiction, and critical essays, and his work has been widely anthologized. Influenced by Gwendolyn Brooks, Madabuti writes experimental free verse, politically charged poetry with a staccato rhythm. Over the span of his career, his poetry has shifted its focus from the personal to the political. Early work with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the Congress of Racial Equality, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference informs his activist poetics. His collections of poetry include Don't Cry, Scream, and Groundwork, selected poems of Hakeem Madabuti, Don L. Lee. He has also published Dynamite Voices 1, Black Poets of the 1960s, and Black Men, Obsolete, Single, Dangerous, and edited Million Man March, Day of Absence, a commemorative analogy. Recognizing the lack of resources and forums for Black writers, Madabuti has founded and led numerous institutions and organizations dedicated to serving that need. In 1967, Madabuti founded Third World Press with the mission of, quote, providing quality literature that primarily focuses on issues, themes, and critiques related to African American public. Madabuti co-founded the quarterly Black Books Bulletin with Larry Neal, the Institute of Positive Education, the New Concept School, the Betty Shabazz International Charter School, which is in Chicago, the International Literary Hall of Fame of Writers of African Descent, and the National Black Writers Retreat. Madabuti has won an American Book Award, the Kaumba Workshop Black Liberation Award, the Broadside Press Outstanding Poets Award, and fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Hakeem Madabuti.
Good evening. I'm really happy to be here. It's been a good day. Yeah, I think I probably pushed that. It's been a very good day. We've had time spent time with the young men this afternoon, and we went to one of the classes. I'm really happy to be here because the last time I was here at Albany State University was about 20 some odd years ago. And most of the professors who are still here were almost teenagers. And so to be here this evening with Jericho Brown and Damaris Hill, two outstanding young writers and poets, and then of course always to come in with my dear friend, sister in struggle, but also extended family, Sonia Sanchez. Dr. Sanchez and I have been friends since 1968. It's a long time. And I think we only had one argument, all right? So it's been a good time. So I bring you greetings from Chicago, from my wife, Dr. Carol Lee, from our children, and from the institutions I work with in Chicago, Third World Press, of course, and as the good doctor mentioned, we have 4 schools in Chicago. New Concept School, the Betty Shabazz National Charter School, the Barbara Sizemore Academy, and the DuSable Leadership Academy. And so we service over 1,000 children a day in an African-centered education. And we've been doing this kind of work for a long time. And so it's always, for me, to come to a historically black college or university to see these young minds out here, because it's your time. It is your time. It's time for you to continue, and you must feel blessed to be here at this fine university. And let no one tell you anything other than that. And it's your time to take what Sonia and I and so many others have brought to this world and to grow with that. So I'm going to read a few poems and just talk a little bit in between the poems. I'm going to start off with some autobiographical work from Yellow Black, the first 21 years of a poet's life. This is my mother here, and the book is about my mother, my sister, and myself, and my first 21 years, how I became a poet. And my mother, you can see she was a very beautiful woman. She was in the sex trade, and she was brought into the sex trade by black ministers. And it took me a long time to write this book, and it's poetry, prose poetry, kind of jazz riffs and prose. So I'm just going to read a couple of pieces from here. My name used to be Don Luther Lee, and I led a delegation. I was one of the leaders of a delegation to go to Tanzania in the 70s, and I had the honor to meet the Honorable Julius Nyerere, the president of Tanzania. And he asked me, what does Don mean and what does Lee mean? And of course, I didn't have any answers for that. And so I didn't know if Lee was Asian or European. But when I got back to Chicago, I asked the naming committee to give me a name that was more in keeping with our tradition, and that's how I got Haki Madabuti. Haki means just to justice, and Madabuti means precise, accurate, dependable. And it's from the Kiswahili language, okay? Don Luther Lee. I was not given my father's name, James, Jimmy Lee. He was not present at my birth, and my mother threw darts at a generic name sheet, and Don fell off the page. To this day, I do not know the meaning of origins of Don or Lee. I do not know if Lee is European or Asian, or if my parents were really married or loved each other. I do know that my mother clutched me close to her heart and seldom let me go, especially on our trips north, where frequent hunger pains were a fact of our existence. I didn't know that her life would be short and full of vacancies and violence. This only meant that my introduction to pure evil and poverty would be early, in abundance, and life-defining, until thinking preceded actions, reactions, and people telling me, you're not black enough. Being not black enough would follow me all of my life. However, it was during my young life that color and the texture of my hair were most troubling and life-determining. Light-skinned or fair-skinned black folks were considered the benefactors, materially and culturally, because they are the closest to the hue of white people. It being one half, one third, or one fourth white was a benefit, I'm here to dispel that myth. My life has been that of an outsider. If it weren't for black music and literature, I would probably be sitting in some prison or fertilizing the weeds growing from the earth covering my body. The only guarantee I had as a young boy growing up in urban America was that there was always another fight waiting. 1942, I was born in 42, I'm 70 years old. I am told that I was born on a night when sun and moon fought for recognition. My father played five-stud poker with men who did not like him, while two midwives gently opened my mother's legs so I could slide head first into a world not ready for complicated questions or uncommon ideas from people with the deepest of color, black. The year was 1942. Up north, the United States Justice Department threatened 20 editors of black newspapers with sedition charges for exposing segregation and injustice in the United States military. Johnny Johnson began publishing his first magazine, Negro Digest, and Margaret Walker's first book of poetry, For My People, is published, and she became the first black poet to be featured in Yale University's series of young poets. Up north, W.B. Du Bois and Paul Robeson, Duke Ellington, A. Philip Randolph, Ida B. Wells, and others were busy laying the groundwork for my entry. However, in Little Rock, Arkansas, on February 23, 1942, I was one of hundreds of babies getting used to warm milk from a mother's breast, unaware of the massive storms, hurricanes, and volcanoes awaiting us. A world offering fire, not milk or comfort. A world unaware of a generation making ready to question whiteness and separate water fountains. My mother's name was Maxine, but actually it was Helen Maxine. That she never used Helen, so I'm just going to use Maxine. I'll just read this poem about my mother. My mother was so beautiful that she not only stopped cars, she stopped buses. Her beauty, if just for a moment, made most men eyes roam and forget other women. She was music unemployed. She wrapped her body in clothes that refused to hide the nature of her desires. And she wanted to be a dancer. She wanted to be warm weather year-round. She wanted to know the origins of walnuts and wealth. She wanted to play the harmonica and sing like Billie Holiday. She believed in God, kind Negroes, reciprocity, and Southern food. Her clothes got in the way of men taking them off. Yellow, black. As I matured and moved into this whole movement of black arts, and this is called Poet, Whatever Happened to Luther. My middle name was Luther. He was strange weather, this Luther. He read books, mainly poetry, and sometimes long books about people in foreign places. For a young man, he was too serious. He never did smile. And the family still don't know if he had good teeth. He liked music too, he even tried to play the trumpet until he heard the young Miles Davis. He then said he tried writing. The family didn't believe him because there ended up being no writers in this family. And everybody knows that whatever you end up doing, it got to be in your blood. It's like loving women. It's in the blood, arteries, and brains. This family don't even write letters. They call everybody. That's why the phone's off 6 months out of the year. Then again, his brother Willie T. used to write long, long letters from prison about the books he was reading by Malcolm X and Frantz Fanon, George Jackson, Richard Wright, and others. Luther, unlike his brother, didn't smoke or drink, and he always be doing odd jobs to get money. Even his closest friend, Clyde and T-Bone, didn't fully understand him. While they be partying all weekend, Luther be traveling. He would take his little money with a bag full of food, mainly food, and a change of underwear and get on the Greyhound bus and go. He said he'd be visiting cities. Yet the real funny thing about Luther was his ideas. He was always be talking about Africa and black people. He was into that black stuff. And he was as light-skinned as a piece of golden corn on the cob. He be calling himself black and African, upsetting everybody, especially white people. They be calling him crazy, but not to his face. Anyway, the family, mainly the educated side, just left him alone. They would just be polite to him. And every child of God knows that when family members act polite, that means they don't want to be around you. It didn't matter much, because after his mother died, he left the city, went into the Army. The last time we heard from him was in 1963. He got put out of the Army for rioting. He disappeared somewhere between Mississippi and Chicago. And third cousin, whose family was also polite to, appeared one day and said that Luther had grown a beard, changed his name, and stopped eating meat. And she said he had been to Africa and now lived in Chicago doing what he wanted to do, writing books. She also said that he smiles a lot and kind of got good teeth. Can I get some love out here for him? You know, come to college and get all quiet, and except on Friday night, boy. One of the real treasures in my life was meeting and becoming an extended member of Gwendolyn Brooks's family. And for 33 years, we were family. As many of you know, I went to Chicago State and started the Gwendolyn Brooks Center for Creative Literature and Black Writing, and we had these annual writers' conferences where Sonia and everybody else and their mama would come. My last book is Honoring Genius, Gwendolyn Brooks, the narrative of craft, art, kindness, and justice. This was one of the final pieces I wrote on Miss Brooks, for Miss Brooks. Gwendolyn Brooks, No Final Words. This picture was taken at Morgan, okay, with Gwen and I. Somewhere between brilliant and genius, in the neighborhood of great and unforgettable. As unique word giver and kind heart, she emerged as our able witness and deep participant. In a time of unwellness and deep need, refusing to tap dance with the garbage men of rulership, corporate acceptance, or literary sainthood, she deciphered the multiple layers of accommodation that often trap the best of us. She refused first-class passage and caviar. She sidestepped isolation, re-enslavement, and tell-lie culture. She remained attached to her language, her people, and all children. She was our kindness. There will be no final words. Gwendolyn Brooks. We poets are blessed with, many of us, with the ability to see through lies and really try not to take any prisoners, okay? What do you say? Replacing fools and crooks with other fools and crooks is to the democratic legislative process what salt is to the seasoning of overcooked pork, overcooked neck bones. They both kill. And you see black people who are so afraid of white people, it seems like they adore them, okay? Wasted life. He spent 50 years of his life trying to convince white people that he was as good as they were. He not only failed, but didn't learn anything from that experience except to strategically forget his name and lie in long sentences. You know, I'm into music, and I think all serious poets are into music. And so I guess one of your favorite artists is R. Kelly. This is my poem for R. Kelly. For R. Kelly. If you have daughters, how are you going to protect them from the somebodies just like you? This is for Duke Ellington. Was it Duke Ellington who said that music was his mistress? And she must have been fine, wore red, read poetry and prose, could swing naturally, danced a lot, and didn't need too much sleep. How many of you are writers out here? Can I see a show of hands? Okay. This book, Run Toward Fear, I think poets always run toward fear. We don't back up, okay? We don't take wolf tickets, all right? And in this book, there is a handbook for poetry writing. I just got tired of these rappers anyway, I just got tired of these rappers. And I decided to write this. And I write about, reading, and there's a profound difference between what happens in terms of performance, poetry, and slam, and what you do on the page and reading, all right? So one of the problems, I think, in many cases with young poets and young writers, is they don't read. And you cannot graduate to the next level if you're not reading Sonia Sanchez, if you're not reading Gwendolyn Brooks, if you're not reading Mara Evans, if you're not reading Jane Cortez, if you're not reading Vinnie Baraka, Larry Neal, you just can't graduate to the next level. So I say, learn to run toward fear. And understand that even with the emergence of performance poetry and poetry slams, and the increasing number of individuals who profess to be poets, few people actually read poetry. And so I give these 40-some suggestions. And number 2 is think about, read, and study more poetry than you write. And number 3 is repeat number 2. And I go on to write that number 9, prepare yourself to be able to make a living in many professions, such as movie popcorn maker, clown, grocery bagger, after-hour escort, bookstore clerk, nanny's assistant, highway ticket toll booth money taker. Naturally, these are temporary jobs that require little thought as you think mainly about making poems. Number 14, study music, the closest art to poetry, especially the music of great black musicians, blues and reggae musicians. Study the music of indigenous people of all lands and all cultures. Number 10, when you write your truth, and you will seldom have writer's block. Always carry a pen and notebook. I guess now you carry your iPad or your computer with you in order to catch the unusual comments, conversations, lies, slogans, and picturesque words that pepper everyday speech of everyday people. 21, keep an active library card. An excellent free library in the poets community is the best medicine for neutralizing ignorance. Free public libraries are also good environments in which to write if one doesn't have a quiet home in which to work. Most of all, libraries represent vast possibilities for acquiring knowledge, and libraries are anti-ignorance. So I got, 40-some of these out here. But this whole question of art is critical. And we got 4 more years of President Obama. Can I get a, yeah. And those of us who worked hard for his reelection realized that the main force behind President Obama is Michelle Obama. She's a bad sister. And his mom-in-law, she's a bad sister. And those 2 daughters, they're going to be some bad sisters. And guess what? They're all in the White House. And guess what? A whole lot of people hate that. They just can't stand it. You know what I'm saying? And in fact, the whole right wing in this country just knew in their deepest memories that there would be a President Romney until the boy from the south side of Chicago and that Chicago machine said, no way. Welcome for the next 4 years. But what's missing in his cabinet, and Sonia and I are going to write him and say, well, you know, you need to change this. You need a poet in your cabinet. You need a writer in your cabinet. You need an artist in your cabinet. Why? Because art is critical. And this piece is called Art, and I'm going to need your help to get this out of me, okay? Art is fundamental instruction and food for people's soul as they translate the many languages and acts of becoming, often telling them in no uncertain terms that all humans are not pure or perfect. However, the children of all cultures inherit their creator's capacity to originate from the bone of their imagination the closest manifestations of purity, perfection, and beauty. Art. Art at its best encourages us to walk on water, dance on top of trees, and skip from star to star without being able to swim, keep a beat, or fly. A child's on-fire imagination is the one universal prerequisite for becoming an artist. So magnify your children's minds with art. Help me out now. Jumpstart their questions with what? Art. Introduce your children to the culture of the world through art. Energize their young feet, spirits, and souls with art. Come on, I can't hear you now. Wake up. Infuse the values of importance to civic culture via art. Keep them curious, political, and creative with art. Speak and define the universal language of beauty with art. Learn to appreciate peace with art. Approach the culture of other people through their art. Introduce the spiritual path for other people through their art. Keep young people in school, off drugs, and out of prison with art. Keep their young minds running, jumping, and excited with art. Examine the nurturing moments of love, peace, and connecting differences with art. Art allows and encourages the love of self and others. The best artists are not mass murderers, criminals, or child molesters. They are in the beauty and creation business. Art is elemental to intelligence, work in democracy, freedom, equality, and justice. Art, if used wisely and widely, early and often, is an answer and a question. It is the cultural lake that the indigenous rivers of dance, music, local images, and voices flow. Art is the waterfall of life, reflecting the untimely and unique soul of a people. Art is a drumbeat of good and great hearts forever seeking a peace and a grand future for all enlightened peoples. For these are the people the world over who lovingly proclaim, give the artist some. Kind words, financial support, yeses from the heart, knowing intuitively that it'll be creative reciprocity in all they give us. Why? Because fundamentally, art inspires, informs, directs, and generates hope and challenges the receiver to respond. And finally, and this is consequential, the quality of the art determines the quality of the responses. We remain in a deep struggle in this country. And it's your time. And you have to grab it, take hold. Do not waste your time here. All of you here, undergraduates, you need to come out with 4.0 or better. And understand that this is not a game. Going to university, serious university, is work. It's work. Men, you have to respect women. All women. All right? Women are more than half of the world's population. But men run the world very badly. All right? And what is not talked about too much, but is a serious problem in this country, is the stealing and selling of women on the underground and overground market around the world. This piece is called Recession-Proof Sex. The unheard screams in the missing, uneasy lives of the unprotected innocents imported from China, Europe, Russia, Africa, India, the Americas, and cracks in between. Ever-growing numbers of not yet teenagers, clean girls, smiling sisters and daughters with inadequate fathers and brothers, crippling mothers, families, and hollowed governments to nurture their tomorrows. They fuel the oldest recession-proof profession in the world, claiming the young and youngest with failed promises and quick lies spoken, written, and read and rewritten by men in the service of men, as history denies the victims their own stories, memories, or horror voices, guaranteeing that misogyny remains the language of commerce that keeps the enslaved ignorant, beautiful, drugged, and submissive, sold and traded on an overground world market to men demanding profit, pleasure, and immortality by the way of the vaginas of virgins. The muted cries, the waterfall screams disappear under the weight and rape of youth being stolen, defiled, and brain damaged. Most innocents do not have sex as an act of love or pleasure. They sex to procreate. They sex to survive. They sex to eat. They sex to protect their children. They sex to pay the father's and husband's debt. They sex to better their lives. They sex for pennies or less. They sex to join families and tribes together. They sex as an expression of love, expecting love. They sex as an act of work. They sex to maintain families. They sex to keep men. They sex to satisfy the lust of men. They sex to question and answer. They sex for education, promotion, and for others. They sex for passports, green cards, and visas. They sex for protection. They sex as an act of religious obligation in the service of the pathological patriarch. Girls becoming women learn liberation on the streets of brutality, snatching knowledge, information, running routes, and modern underground railroads from the mouths of customers, Johns, tricks, co-workers, new friends, and husbands. Most seeking good dreams, love, and personal selection. Quietly and systematically, many plan to steal away into the night, to painfully make a life as goes the songs of Billie Holiday, somewhere, one day, finding my own way. I spent part of my adult life dealing and working with brothers. We have this high school in Chicago, and I spent a lot of time working with these young brothers up in this high school. And my wife and I, we have 2 boys, and they're doing well. The youngest boy, dreadlock down. I mean, good look. I mean, looked like I looked when I was his age. And fortunately, just got married a year and a half ago to a wonderful sister. But I wrote this poem for him because when he was in college, he was a DJ. And my wife and I, we were afraid. And my wife, I always talk about my wife because, she's brilliant. I mean, she's on the faculty at Northwestern University as an endowed chair. Brilliant, Was the president of AERA, which is American Education Researchers Association, which is one of the largest body of researchers in the world. She was the president. Gave the president's address, about 5,000 white people sitting in the audience, and when she finished, it was a standing ovation. Tell me she's not bad. Serious. And didn't divert from nothing. I mean, just right on her cultural modeling in terms of how to deal with our children. And I tell you, she's a brilliant woman. That's one of the reasons she married me. And so we had these 3 children, and so this, it's not that funny. So we hear Sonia laugh. She's laughing with you or laughing at you. But anyway, the B Network, I wrote this for my youngest boy because he was hip. He was on it. He was right, DJing and the women lining up and lining. So I say, I'm one of the original rappers. He said, what? And looked at me like I lost my mind. I said, yeah, I'm one of the original rappers. So I wrote this poem for him. It's called the B Network. So tell me if this is on it, okay? Don't lie now. Brothers bop and bebop, and cities locked up and chained insane by crack and other acts of desperation, computerized and Pentagon cell-producing bopping brothers boasting better, best, and beautiful. If the bopping brothers are beautiful, where are the sisters who seek brother man with a drugless head, unbossed or beaten by the bodacious West? In a time of big wind being blown by boastful brothers, with other brothers beat back backwardness to better and best without bragging bosses, beating butts, taking names, and digging graves. Beating badness in the bad may be urban, but is it beautiful and serious? Or is a betrayal and heir to prepared easy death hanging on corner trapping young brothers before they know the difference between big death and big life? Brothers bop and bebop and cities locked up and chained insane by cracking other acts of desperation, computerized and Pentagon cell producing bopping brothers both of being better, best, beautiful, and definitely not black. The critical best is that brothers better be the best if they're devoid backwardness. Brothers better be the best if they'll conquer beautiful bigness. And comprehend that bad is only bad if it's big, black, and better than boastful braggarts, belittling our best and brightest with bosses seeking inches with miles or better. Brothers need to bow to being black and bright and above board, the black train of beautiful wisdom that has been in this bind toward a new and knowledgeable beginning that is bountiful and beautiful. While bebopping to be better than the test, brother man, better yet, write the exam. And so for these brothers, we elderly men, we have this tough love. And that's what it's called, tough love. His soul knows no calling. Hears few kind footsteps. He talks street and prison with right hand on his privates. His pants hangs low on his hip bone. His language is protective and guttural. He sees with one eye. His walk is drum dance. He runs with the rough road tribe. Wears black glove on his left fist. He never known a personal smile from an adult. His knowledge is popular, urban, and short. He discovered moon, sun, and flowers at 20. The elder in his life is 26, and like him, knows he's in trouble. He's seeking a distant memory or calling. Last week, a smiling woman called his name. She wasn't carrying weed, or guns, or junk food. This economy went down in the dumps because of the former President Bush. And this is thoughts on Bushism. Okay? Number one, ignorant people talking about how ignorant other people are. Reminds me of Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and George W. Bush in between their wars and tax cuts to their friends, eagerly initiating serious conversations with their dogs. 2, students in advanced high school history class, upon viewing President George W. Bush's exit press conference, asked their teacher, "Does the president have a GED? Or is he permanently stuck on stupid?" Number 3, people don't attack you because they don't like your way of life. Attacks come because you are playing a major murderous role in disrupting their way of life. Number 4, I'm the decider. Jesus Christ is my philosopher. We're a peaceful nation among nations. War on terrorism. I'm a wartime president. Evil, eviler, make them uneval. Democracy, freedom, and justice is what they hate. With us or with the terrorists. Things evil men do. They don't like our freedoms. We're fighting evil persons, evil doers, inventors of evil. We are a peaceful nation among nations. We are innocent. The American way is what they hate. God bless America. Peace. Now, close your eyes and locate your brain. Repeat each of the above words or phrases 1,000 times. Borrow a dictionary. Then look at the following in this order: deliberate, liar, F- president. President Obama, Sonia Sanchez and Michael Samanga and Lita Hooper just published a book on President Obama called 44 and 44, Third World Press. And I gave some of y'all got catalogs that's in the book. And so we all wrote about the president. And one of my selections to that 44, well, to the president's election is the last first. The last first. Because this was the last mountain to climb, okay, at one level. And not the first heavyweight champion of the world. Airline pilot, quarterback of the NFL, college graduate, doctor, teacher, big league baseball player, preacher, pastor, CEO, mountain climber, university president, entrepreneur, heart surgeon, inventor, governor, or poet. Not the first mathematician, physicist, engineer, Supreme Court justice, fastest man alive, publisher, reporter, ambassador, entertainer, four-star general, best-selling author, executive chief, sergeant major, scientist, baseball Hall of Famer, economist, secretary of state, Nobel Prize winner, astronaut, law enforcer, chair of the Joint Chiefs, senator, first responder, or state legislator. Not the best trumpet player alive, bank president, husband, father, organic farmer, rapper's a coach's coach. Not an undefined question looking for an answer, or hidden agenda claiming the authority of one. Not an exploiter of the commons, is the green hand nurturing fields, crops, and rainforests, is the water, food, education, clean energy, preventive health, and intellect required, is the humanitarian connecting music and economy writing political notes, legible to professionals, novice, students, and elders the world over, is the community organizer, maneuvering citizens' campaigns, expecting to impact and implant knowledge, consent, and saneness on impracticability. As renegade and renaissance, expanding the can, in, we, and yes, at the early light of this promising century, not the last, is the first, Barack Hussein Obama, president. I'm going to end up here with this last piece, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me and the other poets to grace this wonderful campus today. It's called Liberation Narratives. That's the title of the poem, of the book. And liberation narratives essentially mean that any people who are in control of their own cultural imperatives are about the healthy replication of themselves. Is that correct, right? The healthy replication of themselves. I can walk into your home right now and tell you exactly where you're at culturally. Not even knowing you. And so when I walk into your home, the first thing I'm going to see is it clean. That defines you. Is it clean? Then we'll look on your walls and see what's on your walls. You know, what kind of images on your walls. Are there the images of your family and your extended family, or images from great black visual artists? Then I'm going to look in your bookshelf, if you got a bookshelf, see what you're reading. All right? Then I'm going to your CD collection and see what you're listening to. Is it great black music or booty call music? All right? Then I always say go to your DVD collection and see what you're looking at night. You know, especially the DVDs that are wrapped up in the brown paper bags. See what you're looking at night. But to really tell what that family is, you go into the children's room. What's on their walls? Darth Vader, Mickey Mouse, and Donald Duck, and Superman, and you wonder why we're in trouble. If you don't know who you are, anybody can name you. Liberation narratives. One, it may be a man's world, yet it's women who write music, who navigate the harmony, who grow children, drive learning, prepare knives for the cutting of green beans and lies while dodging genocide and rape. As men who run the world bathed in the power of extreme illusion, overuse collateral damage and deficit language to justify it's a man's world. Two, best advice to men, marry women smarter than you, and occasionally let them know it. Number 3, my mother was prettier than imagination soaked in honey flavored with hot water and lemon. Her heart was there too. She was a short poem. Dead at 34, buried without flowers, notation, or truthful stories. She challenged men walking on her life like she was a used thread mill years before they were invented. I have her eyes. I see damage everywhere. I have become a stop sign. 4, Janet liked girls and told them so. Robert liked boys and kept it a secret. Both grew into teenagers, still liking girls and still liking boys. Each kept their desires to themselves. In the 21st century, parts of the world began to mature and finally understood why Janet loved women and Robert loved men. They were born that way. Enough said. 5, if poetry is to have meaning, it must mean something. More than metaphor and simile, more than tree talk and looking for gigs, more than competition and unrhymed free verse seared to the bone of incomprehension. Surely to land a poet a Guggenheim or a MacArthur Genius Grant. Artists should not expect from readers, listeners, and observers fairness, objectivity, or deep knowledge of wordplay or interpretive ideas of paint or jumping notes. Often a smile will do. And yes, to buy and share books, visuals, and music will help. Saying yes to children may get you into heaven. Saying no to war builds character and conscience. Giving 10% of what you earn to the homeless will aid in your sleeping a full night. Hopefully to awaken creating healthier poems, prose, pictures, and critical perceptions of the potential of the letter P beyond politics, potholes, profiteers, poverty, pimp juice, patriots, Protestants, and playboys of the Western world. 6, if you don't know who you are, anybody can name you. And 7, if the world loses elephants, dolphins, polar bears, frogs, trees, the ability of the majority to do good, if the world loses clean water, prayer, and meditation in all languages, if the world loses love across borders, honest vegans and vegetarians, a mother's love, a father's caring, children dancing to knowledge and colors, artists not lying for money, privilege, or fame, if the world loses books, newspapers, clear thinkers, practical doers, poets, promising futures for the great majority, rainforests, a world vocabulary that accents yes and possibilities rather than no, you can't do that. If the world loses the great apes, schools, giraffes, salmon, the coral reefs, insects, worms, organic farmers, compost, green tea, workers who use their hands to build and repair stuff, North and South poles, teachers, people of faith, engineers, wheatgrass, carrot juice, oatmeal, and 7-grain bread. If the world loses you and water, yes, precious you and the daily taste of life, it finally means that we lost butterflies yesterday and failed our children. That's just part 1. Sonia Sanchez.
So you thought I was really all this tall, right? Until you saw that. Thank you, my dear brother. Whoa, it is like always very difficult sometimes to listen and understand perhaps what we attempted to do in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, all the way into 2000. What we attempted to do was to answer the question, what does it mean to be human? And that's an important question that we've got to answer. Make no mistake about it. I want to thank Brother Haki and his family, and we have been friends for years. I was telling an interviewer that the many a time that I was out of my head sick, and Haki would call and say, you got to come help me do this with the press. And you get up and you go because you understood
the need for a press and a black institution in this place called America, and people working very hard to make sure that happened. And we were never, ever, ever, I mean, at some point we argued about a couple of things, and that is true, but all the poets argued and walked out and didn't speak for a day, you know. And then at some point, in our business, you had to see them on the road. You know, you couldn't avoid them because all of a sudden there they was, right? And you couldn't say, well, I ain't going to speak to you, right? Fools do that. But sisters and brothers who've been in a struggle don't do that. And you walk up and you hug and you kiss and say, I missed you because you're my friend, you're my brother. You know, you're somebody I've loved for a very long time and will continue to love. And that is good, and will continue to do this work. I call on Living Indigo Resistors, Sandy Smith, Rosa Parks, Joanne Gibson Robinson, Daisy Bates, Willie Ricks, Octavia Butler, John Lewis, Dorothy Cotton, Charlene Hunter Galt, John Conyers, Gloria Richardson, June Jordan, Hakeem Adabuti, John Hope Franklin, Thurgood Marshall, Cynthia McKinney, Mary McLeod Bethune, A. Philip Randolph, Herbert and Faye Aptheker, Benjamin May, Jesse Jackson, Jackie Robinson, Adam Clayton Power, Geronimo Pratt, Thelonious Monk, Fred Shuttlesworth, Marion Wright Elderman, Tony K. Bambara, Toni Morrison, Kay Boyle, Barbara Lee, Chokwe Lumumba, Carolyn Rogers, Barbara Deming, Ann Braden, Maria Stewart, Charles Houston, William Hastings, Shirley Chisholm, Angela Davis, Mary Church Terrell, Sojourner Truth, Catherine Dunham, Bill and Camille Cosby, Elizabeth Catlett, Reverend Calvin Butts, Maurice Bishop, Nat Turner, Medgar Evers, Morris Dees, Maya Angelou, Oprah Winfrey, Cornel West, John Coltrane, Shirley Graham Du Bois, W.B. Du Bois, Gene Hudson, Mr. Michaud, C.L.R. James, Richard Moore, Gandhi, Grace and James Boggs, Sandy Cisneros, Nicholas Guillen, Beverly and Walter Lomax, Mari Evans, Marcus Garvey, Amy Jack Garvey, Pablo Neruda, Gwendolyn Brooks, Amina and Amity Baraka, Askia Touré, Lucille Clifton, The Last Poets, Bessie Smith, Dorothy Day, Fidel, Shay, Tupac, Rakim, Asada, Talib, The Roots, Pernell Joseph, Brenda Green, Yuriko Chiyama, Billie Holiday, Margaret Burroughs, Mos Def, Dead Prez, Common, Ida Wells Barnett, Krista McBride, Betty Carter, Mfunde Ella Baker, Father Paul Washington, Dave Richardson, Merle Evers Williams, Dr. Dorothy Height, Henry Hampton, Bob Marley, Howard Zinn, Kenneth Clark, Sonny Rollins, Asa Hilliard, Zaid Shakur, Lorraine Hansberry, Zora Neale Hurston, Louise Merriweather, Leon Thomas, Dennis Brutus, Nikki Giovanni, Kathleen Cleaver, Simon Ortiz, Danny Simon, Jane Cortez, Dolores Huerta, Chris Honey, Jessica Moore, Black Ice, Willie Costasili, Oliver Tambo, Erin Magruder, Miles Davis, Cesar Chavez, Kamako Hahn, Odetta, Sweet Honey in the Rock, Bernice Regan, Viney Burrows, Fannie Lou Hamer, Victoria Gray, Annie Devine, Walter Rodney, Thurgood Marshall, Charlie Caldwell, Afeni Shakur, Gloria Joseph, Audre Lorde, John Bracey, Sitting Bull, Lolita Lebron, Billy Avery, Luis Moreno, Jose Marti, Diop, Vito Marcantonio, David Walker, Margaret Walker, Alice Walker, Maxine Green, Nkrumah, Robert Sobukwe, Dinah Washington, Valerie Luiso, Abby Lincoln, Oscar Brown Jr., Ray Charles, William Wells Brown, Sterling Brown, John Brown, Bertolt Brecht, Dada Mama Sisulu, Martin Delaney, Louis Burnham, Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela, Viola Pluma, KRIS-One, Arturo Schomburg, Max Roach, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Randy Weston, Dr. T.R.M. Howard, Charles Mitchell, Lauren Hill, Erica Badu, Ursula Rucker, Cecil Gray, Toshi Regan, Julian Bond, Staunton and Alice Lynn, Charlie Cobb, Harry Belafonte, Danny Glover, Milton Rogovin, Catherine Dunham, Duke Ellington, Abraham Heschel, Ruby Doris, Mickey, James, and Andy, Emmett Till, Isabel Allende, Bob Marley, Bessie Head, Franz Fanon, Walter Mosley, Michael Weaver, Linton Kwesi Johnson, St. Clair Bourne, Ethel Hedgeman Lyle, Archbishop Tutu, John Henry Clark, Bob Moses, John Killens, Queen Mother Moore, Septima Clark, S.K. Infahilele, Bobby Sands, Patrick Hill, James Baldwin, Grace Paley, Allen Ginsberg, Paul Blackburn, Ann Waldman, Barbara Antier, George Lamming, Sekou Sondiata, Ruby Dee, Ozzie Davis, Art Tatum, Pam Africa, Ramona Africa, Langston Hughes, Chinua Achebe, Olatunji, Brother Damu, Sojourner Truth, Esther and Jim Jackson, Benjamin Davis, William Patterson, Toussaint Desalegn, Sandino, Harriet Tubman, Archbishop Oscar Romero, Bernard Herring, Rosemary Harding, Vincent Harding, Monroe Trotter, Emmett Till, Edward Said, Charlie Parker, Dick Gregory, Dizzy Gillespie, Marcus Garvey, Paul Robeson, Albert Einstein, Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, Lumumba, Kwame Ture, Chuck D, Frederick Douglass, Coretta Scott King, Johnetta Cole, Cabral, Richard Pryor, Chairman Mile, Sadie Alexander, Nina Simone, Joy Harjo, Guguwathi Ongo, Adrian Rich, Margaret Randa, Stephen Biko, Herman Ferguson, Betty Shabazz, Asada Shakur, Katie Cannon, Paulie Murray, Sadie Alexander, Julia Wright, Richard Wright, Bishop Camera, Leonard Peltier, Baird Ruskin, Howard Thurman, Walt Whitman, Thich Nhat Hanh, Jose Marti, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, Martin Luther King, Malcolm, 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 say it, Malcolm, Malcolm, can you say Malcolm? Some people that some of you should know along the way. Yeah. In Connecticut, at a school, where I got an honorary degree from, in Connecticut. It's a private school, Hartford, Connecticut. Trinity, yes, thank you, Trinity College. Thank you. You know, every now and then, you know. And they asked me would I do a workshop for a week with the high school students, and I said yes, I could do that. And at the end of the first day of the workshop, after a 3-hour very intense workshop, you know, some of you with me today, we all joined hands, and this young white 17-year-old student said, Professor Sanchez, I feel so safe here in this workshop. Let me tell you what happened to me 2 weeks ago. I turned to my teacher and said, can we have a conversation about peace? And my teacher called me a terrorist. And he started to cry. And the whole group surrounded him and supported him. And the good thing is that he was in that workshop for 1 week. And the good thing is that on Friday, all the students read with me. And he read this most fantastic poem, you know, about that incident. And people applauded him. And that was good also for the teacher. Because, you know, he should know that this young man was still angry at him. And at least in that workshop, he was able to get rid of that anger, which was so important. So I call this peace. Peace, what is it? Is it an animal, a bird, a plane, a mineral, a color, a drum beat? Do bop bop bop, do rap rap bop, do rap rap bop dee. Is it a verb, a noun, an adjective, a prophet with no pockets circling our paragraph lines? Do bop bop bop, do rap boo boo, do rap bop, do bop, do bop, do bop. Du Bois said the cause of war is the preparation of war. Du Bois said the cause of war is the preparation of war. I say the cause of peace must be the preparation of peace. I say the cause of peace must be the preparation of peace. Blah, blah, blue, blah, blah, blue, 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 blue. Shall I prepare a table of peace before you in the presence of mine enemies? Shall I prepare a table of peace? Will you know how to eat at this table? Ski da 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 do da do ba do ba do ba do ba ba do. Where are the forks of peace? Where are the knives of peace? Where are the spoons of peace? Where are the eyes of peace? Where are the hands of peace? Where are the tongues of peace? Where are the children of peace? Peace, peace, ding, 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 peace, peace, ding, 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 ding. Is peace an action, a way of life? Is it a tension in our earth body? Is peace you and I seeing beyond bombs and babies roasting on the country road? Ba 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 ba. Peace must not be still. We have to take it on the road, marching against Pentagon doors, lurking in obscenity. Peace must not find us on our knees while the country holds hostage the hearts and penises of the workers. Blee blee blue blue, blee blee blue, da da boom, 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 da da boom. Can you say peace? Can you resurrect peace? Can you house the language of peace? Can you write a sermon of peace? Can you populate the cause of peace? Dee da 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 peace. La 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 dun peace, la 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 peace. A long time ago someone said, I think, therefore I am. A long time ago someone said, I think, therefore I am. Now we say preempt distracts, therefore we are. Now we say preempt distracts, therefore we are. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Can you rise up at the sound of peace? Can you make peace lighter than air? Can you make peace sing like butterflies until peace becomes the noise of the planet? Until peace becomes the noise of the planet. Peace, 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 peace. Peace, 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 peace. I know as MLK knew that the universe is curved ultimately towards justice and peace. I know as MLK knew that the universe is curved ultimately towards justice and peace. For war is the sanction of failure. For war is the sanction of failure. Doom, boom, boom, boom. Doom, boom, doom, 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 boom. Doom, doom, boom, boom. Doom, 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 doom. Martin said a riot is the language of the unheard. And I said terrorist bomb is the language of the unheard. How to make the unheard heard without blowing themselves and the world up. How to make the unheard heard without blowing themselves and the world up. Boom, 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 boom. Most have said speech is my hammer. Bang my world into shape, now let it fall. I say peace is my hammer. Bang my world into peace and let it fall on the eyes of the children. Frère Jacques do 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 do, Frère Jacques do do do, do me voo 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 voo, ding dong ding 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 ding. Where are the forks of peace? Where are the knives of peace? Where are the spoons of peace? Where are the eyes of peace? Where are the hands of peace? Where are the tongues of peace? Where are the children of peace? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? A poem about peace. And peace is no easy thing to talk about. The moment you say peace, someone calls you a leftist or a commie. I'm the poet laureate of a place called Philadelphia, and the first thing I said I wanted to do was to do a peace mural. And everyone said, great idea. It's not up yet. And it's not up yet because people then say, well, okay, let's do this, whatever. And it's not up yet because of the people that I have up on that mural. You know, now it's interesting because the people I have on that mural, people like Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, Alice Walker, Martin Luther King. Isn't that amazing? People who sent me things like that, whatever, and it still is not up there, you know. And one of the things you understand is that people really do not want peace because peace doesn't make money. War makes money. War makes money. But you see, if I were your age, young people, and you can walk out this room right now if you want to, but you see, this is your world. Brother Haki says your world, but it won't be your world if these old folks destroy it, you see. And that's from global warming to war, you see. Because what they do with every generation, they send you young people off to war, you die. You die. You're no longer a bother to them. You die. And what we're saying to you at some point, since it is your world, you've got to demand peace. Demand peace. So I have this button called Grannies for Peace. Grannies, grandmothers, and mothers gathered together. And what did they do? They went down, to the place where you register people. We went down there in New York City, in Seattle, right? In Philadelphia, in Atlanta, all these places. What did we do? We went down and said at the recruitment center, take us, don't take our children. At first the guy looked at us and said, look, this is just a bunch of women, right? So he let us in and we were talking but all of a sudden we saw these people coming in, filling out applications. I went over to a brother and said, hey, could you tell me, why you want to go off to war? He says, well, they told me if I join up that I could become a doctor. I said, my dear brother, I can take you to the med schools at UPenn, Temple, Columbia, all over the country, and they'll tell you what you need to become a what, But the point is that I can guarantee you won't become that if you go off to war. And so the people saw these people signing applications, they left. And then the man got very upset with us and said, you have to leave. And we said, we want to leave. We want to stay with you and hold a conversation. And then he called the police. And the police came in, right? And one of the regulars, one of the usual detectives that we see at demonstrations. And he came and said, okay, ladies, got to get you out of here. I'm going to put handcuffs on your back. And we said, well, don't do that. We're not running away. We're staying, actually. We want to stay. He goes out for 15 minutes, comes back, says, okay, ladies, we'll put handcuffs in front of you. It won't hurt as much. We said, we still don't want to run away. We want to stay and talk to everybody here. And then he left. And then in comes this policewoman. And she said, Professor Sanchez, if you teach 40 years, you got a whole lot of students in the world. She said, why are they going to arrest you? I said, we're against the war. She said, don't worry. She whispered, I'll take good care of you. But I turned to my sisters who were white and Latino looking at me. I said, if you take care of me, you got to take care of those sisters too. And she looked at me and smiled. She said, oh, Professor Sanchez, in your classes, you always stretched us. You made us think beyond our own neighborhoods and our own selves and our own eyes. I said, yeah, because this is the world we're in, is it not? And so she let us out, and then there was a woman from NPR who said, hey, Professor Sanchez, suppose you had gone and joined up and gone to boot camp. What would you have done? I said, push-ups for peace. So every morning, you got to do push-ups for peace. You who sit back and lean back and think that all you do is go to school. It's a world out there waiting for you. But it's a world being ruined by people who say there's no global warming. It's a world that also, what we saw now in New York City and New Jersey tells you there is global warming. That we are now getting storms that we've never had before. We didn't have hurricanes in Philadelphia and New York City, right? We didn't have tornadoes in Philadelphia, New York City, and New Jersey. You got to hear that. And we didn't have an earthquake that came up the eastern seaboard from Atlanta, hit Philadelphia, went to New York, went to Canada, shot back down to Michigan, and went all the way out to Colorado. Tell me when you've seen something like that. And I'll tell you that the people are screwing up this world for you, and it's your world. You young people, it's your world. You got to fight for it, though. The way we fought for. You got to fight for this world. You got to say, it's my world, sucker. If you don't want to do the right thing, go home. You got to learn how to elect people like you. You got to elect young people to go into the Congress and the Senate. Young people who think like you. You must do that. You must do that. You cannot sit anymore and watch revenge on television and think that's the world. The revenge is that they're taking revenge on us. Say, we're going to pay you back for what you did in the 60s and 70s, people. In fact, we're going to wait till you die and then lay it on the populace. But you keep forgetting, and I said it this afternoon, we're the people. It begins, we the people. You know, they're not just talking about, you know, Cheney and Bush and them people. They're talking about we the people. We, you and me, us'n, you and me, we the people. We run this sucker. You got to understand that. And even though you think other people run it, whatever, you wait until some trouble happens in this country and you'll see really who runs this country. And we need for you to understand that. So it is about loving yourselves, but it's about loving your country too. This country that we built on the blood, our blood. We built this bloody place. You understand that? We built that White House and our black folks are in it. And it's such a wonderful irony, is it not? You know, but we built it. So you can't lean back and say, I'm going to get a degree and hope I get a job. You will get a job when you help stop the fighting, because the money comes home again. When the money comes home, we will have jobs. You got to hear that. You know, billions of dollars are spent on wars. Billions of dollars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Billions of dollars, and we could have built better schools. You know that? That's right. You know, and now what are they doing in Philadelphia and in D.C. and New York? You know what they're doing? They're closing schools. They say we have to close the schools. We can't afford them. We need to go and sit in and say, sucker, what do you mean you can't afford a school? We can't afford a war that takes away money from the schools. It is that kind of activism we must begin to do again. You cannot lay back on your eyes and think it's going to be cool, because it will not be cool. You know, and sometimes I know you don't want to hear it, because it's a difficult thing to know sometimes that your country doesn't give a damn about you. You know, that's a difficult concept to understand. But we had to internalize that and realize that, so then we had to give a damn about ourselves and about our people and about the country and about other people and move accordingly. If you remember no poem, I say, please do remember that. One of the poems that I did was a poem called Poem for Some Women. A woman on the idiot box said, you know, a woman took her child into the crack house today in North Philadelphia. That meant a black woman or a Latina, you know, whatever. And that's all she said. And millions of people in a place called Philadelphia said, oh, them people, they're savages. Isn't that something? And I thought at some point one had to say something about that. Poem for some women. I'm all right. I say, I'm all right. What you looking at? I say, I'm all right, doing okay. I'm still writing, producing on the radio. Who I fooling? I'm just a little ill now. Just got a little Jones. Habit. Took my 7-year-old to the crack house with me on Thursday. Beautiful girl, prettiest little girl her mama done ever seen. Took her so she understand why I late sometimes with her breakfast, dinner, bedtime meetings, bedtime love. Wanted her to know how hard it is for me, you know, a single woman out here on her own, you know. So I took her to the crack house where this man, this dog, this former friend of mine lived. Wouldn't give me no crack, no action. Even when I opened my thighs to give him some again for the umpteenth time, he said no, all the while looking at my baby, my pretty little baby. He said, I want her. I need a virgin. Your stuff's too loose. You have so much traffic up there. You could park a truck up there and still have room for something else. And he laughed this long laugh, and I looked at him and the stuff he was holding in his hand. You know, I couldn't remember my baby's name. He held the stuff out to me. I couldn't remember her birth date. I couldn't remember my daughter's face, and I cried as I walked out that door. What's her name? Puddin' Tang. Asked me again. Tell you the same thing. Couldn't even hear her screaming my name as he tore into her pretty little panties. Prettiest little girl you ever done seen. Prettiest little mama's baby you done ever seen. Bought my baby this pretty little leather jacket off the street when I went to pick her up on Sunday. 7 days later, walked right up to the house, opened the door, saw her sitting on the floor. She said, Mama, 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 they hurt me. Something bad. I want to go home. Mama, Mama's little baby loves shortening. Shortening. Mama's little baby loves shortening bread. Put on the jacket, Put on the jacket. Mama's little baby loved shortening bread. When we got home, she wouldn't talk to me. She just sat and stared. Wouldn't watch the TV when I turned it on. When we got home, she just sat and stared with me with her eyes dog-like. Just sat and looked at me with her eyes till I had to get out of there, you know. Had to get out of there, you know. My baby ran away from home last week. My sweet little shortening bread ran away from home last night, and I dreamed she was dead. I dreamed she was surrounded by panthers who tossed her back and forth, nibbling and biting and tearing her up. My little shortening bread ran away last week. Peekaboo, peekaboo. I see you and you and you and you and you. That's a hard poem. And sometimes, you know, and I can share with you, sometimes, you know, we write and we think, well, I have moved beyond that. How do you move beyond your people and what's happening to our people in terms of drugs? You know, so sometimes we have to back up and talk about it again, if you understand what I'm saying. We have to talk about what goes on in our communities, you know, because when we deal with drugs, right, we forget who we are. We forget our children. Can you imagine forgetting your children? And we come from a people, do we not, that people cried when they took our babies away when we were on auction blocks. Say, don't take my baby, please, please, please don't take my baby. No, 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 she don't have my memory in her eyes yet. Don't take her from me. And now we're selling them, leaving them. And that is an indictment of this country. That what has happened to us, that is an indictment. I was in Alabama a couple days ago. I was born in a place called Birmingham, Alabama, and they were honoring some of us who were born there. And they took me to see some of the places where I grew up, and one of the schools and one of the churches where my grandmother took me to church, you know, for Sunday school and for the sermon and home to eat, and then back again, you know, for evening service. Some of you know what I'm talking about, you know. Sunday was the day for church people. And but also the day before was Saturday, when the old sisters came to my grandmother's house, Mama's house, and they cooked the food and they snapped the beans and they had conversations. And wherever I was, I would run in when I saw them coming and I'd slide behind the couch. And sometimes when I made too much noise, Mama would slide her eyes behind the couch and said, "Shut up if you want to hear this. Keep quiet, girl. This is important." And I would keep quiet and listen. And this is called, and in the piece I talk about, I used to play a lot with the boys because my sister, who was the most beautiful person on the planet Earth, you know, like when we were children and the old sisters would be there, it was a rainy day, we couldn't play outside, and one of the sisters would say, "Oh, Elizabeth," that was my grandmother's name, "Patricia is so beautiful. She looks just like her mother." My sister raised her head for the, you know, accolades, like, whoa. And I looked up and said, "Oh, whoa, she sure is pretty." You know what I mean? Whatever. Then they said, "And Sonia," right? And I raised my head for the accolades, and there was this silence. And they said, "Well, she looks like her daddy." And then the kicker, "But she's smart." And it's amazing how these people can tell you who you are and will make you be what you are. Because my sister was beautiful, so therefore she never had to use her brains. There was always somebody who took care of her. You'll hear that. And she was just as bright as everybody else. But also, I knew nobody would ever take care of me. And so I went out into the world always taking care of myself. That's the truth. You know, and I say to women, that is the truth. You learn how to take care of yourself just in case. Just in case. But I went out, and one day, one of the little brothers said, you know, "I want to be the leader." And so we said, we got to do something to decide who the leader is. So they came, we ran into the house, and we went to the second floor. And one of the brothers said, "The person who jumps out this window would be the leader." So I went and looked over at the window, and I looked out, and there was we had a big tree right outside our bedroom there. And I figured it out. If I jumped, I could hit the tree and slide down the tree. So I climbed up the window to do it. And they went running down to Mama to tell her that I was going to jump out the window. And I did. I had it right, but I jumped too hard. So I jumped out, hit the tree hard, and slid down and hit the ground really hard and scratched my knees. Because my aunts came out, who were really my first cousins, clucking their tongues, say, I told you, this girl just ain't going to grow up to be a lady. And that's good, right? And, but Mama came out with her apron on saying, girl, you all right? And I said, yeah, Mom. She said, let me wash your knees. And she washed my knees to go outside and play. So I went out and said to the brothers, hey, I'm the leader. That lasted one day. Because the next day we came outside, we forgot who that was or what that was all about, and we played. But this is about that. It's called Dear Mama. It is Christmas Eve, and the year is passing away with callous feet. My father, your son, and I decorate the night with words, sit ceremoniously in human song, watch our blue sapphire words eclipse the night. We have come to this simplicity from afar. He stirs, pulls from his pocket a faded picture of you, black woman, sitting in frigid peace, all of your biography preserved in your face, and my eyes draw up short as he says her name was Elizabeth, but we used to call her Lizzie. And I hold your picture in my hands, but I know your name by heart, it's Mama. I hold you in my hands and let time pass over my face. Let my baby be. She ain't like the others. She rough. She'll stumble on gentleness later on. Ah, Mama, gentleness ain't never been no stranger to my genes, but I did like the roughness of running and swallowing the wind, diving in rivers I could barely swim, jumping from second-story windows into a saving backyard bush. I did love you for loving me so hard until I slid inside your veins and sailed your blood to an uncrucified shore. And I remember Saturday afternoons at our house, the old sister deaconesses sitting in sacred pain, black cadavers burning with lost aromas, and I crawled behind the couch and listened to breaths I had never breathed, tasted their enormous martyrdom, lives spent on so many things, heard their laughter as Sister Smith's latest performance in church, her purse sailing towards Brother Thomas's head again, and I hugged the laughter round my knees, draped it round my shoulder like a Spanish shawl. And history began once again. I received it and let it circulate in my blood. I learned on those Saturday afternoons about women rooted in themselves, raising themselves in dark America, discharging their pain without ever stopping. I learned about women fighting men back when they hit them. Don't ever let no men's hit you more than once, girl. I learned about women's waking up their men's in the night with pans of hot grease, and the compromises reached after the smell of hot grease had penetrated their sleepy brains. I learned about loose women walking their abandoned walk down front in church, crossing their legs instead of their hands to God, and I crept into my eyes alone with my daydreams of being woman, adult, powerful, loving like them, allowing nobody to rule me if I didn't want to be. And when they left, when those old bodies had gathered up their sovereign smells, after they had kissed and packed up beans snapped and cakes cooked and laughter bagged, after they had called out their last goodbyes, I crawled out of my place, surveyed the room, then walked over to the couch where some had sat for hours and bent my head and smelled their evening smells. I screamed out loud, ooh, wee, ain't that stinky? And I laughed, laughter from 1,000 corridors. And you turned, Mama, closed the door, chased me round the room until I crawled into a corner where your large body could not reach me. But your laughter pierced the little alcove where I sat laughing at the night, and your humming sprinkled my small space, your humming about your Jesus and how one day he was going to take you home. Because you died when I was 6, Mama, I never laughed like that again. Because you died without warning, Mama, my sister and I moved from family to stepmother to friend of the family. I never felt your warmth again, but I knew corners and alcoves and closets where I sat, where I was pushed when some mad woman went out of control, where I sat for days while some woman raved in rhymes about unwanted children and work and not enough money or love, and I set out my childhood with stutters and poems gathered in my head like some winter storm, and the poems erased the stutters and pain, and the words loved me, and I loved them in return. My first real poem is about you, Mama, and death. My first real poem recited an alphabet of spit, splattering up white bus driver's face after he tried to push cousin Lucille off a bus, and she left Birmingham under the cover of darkness forever. My first real poem is about your Charles white arms holding me up against death. My life flows from you, Mama. My style comes from a long line of Louises who picked me up in the night to keep me from wetting the bed, a long line of Sarahs who fed me and my sister and 14 other children from watery soups and beans and a lot of imagination, a long line of Lizzies who made me understand love, sharing, holding a child up to the stars, holding your tribe in a grip of love, a long line of black people holding each other up against silence. I still hear your humming, Mama. The color of your song calls me home. The color of your words saying, let her be. She got a right to be different. She gonna stumble on herself one of these days. Just let the child be, and I be, Mama. That's a poem for my grandmother. I'm gonna end up with, you do 20 books and you look up and you say, but it's late and you've listened to a lot of poetry. Let me end up with two pieces here from Morning Haiku. I wrote a collection of haiku for people. One of the people was my sister, Pat. It was never published while she was alive. I said that she was beautiful, but people really don't like beauty. And if you're a child and you're beautiful and you don't have protection, that is dangerous, whatever. And so my child, the good thing about me when we were sent from place after place, from family to family, from cousin to cousin, to aunt, to stepmother, when my sister came in, they said, ooh, isn't she beautiful? When I came in, they said, oh, she goes, ah, 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 ah. And that was protection for me. I was interviewed by a man who wrote about people who stutter, and I gave the usual response about stuttering, and that was, how I cured myself. I said I cured myself by, when we had to graduate from high school, there were 3 things we had to do: swim the length of the pool. None of the sisters did that, by the way. They couldn't wet their hair. The second thing was to do a major speech in the assembly, where all the seniors did for 5 minutes, and we did that. And when I read mine, I memorized mine, because, if stutterers memorize, they don't stutter. And so I memorized my piece, although I had the cards as if I was, reading it, period. But I maintain, and I didn't tell this to the man because I knew he wouldn't understand it, that I maintained that after my grandmother died, she gave me the grace to stutter about her death, and my stuttering protected me forever. And I stopped stuttering by the time I got to college, because I got into college at 16. And the point is that it was, I guess my grandmother thought that I could protect myself at 16. But my sister never had the protection. She always had the protection of men. Sister Haiku for Pat. How many secrets you carried in your panties? Infections of confections, no retractions. The autumn rain announced a sister's fragrance. Yo, slanted black eyes, smile crystals. Can 2 little girls holding hands walk unnoticed in a large house? Young man, home from war, envies the subtle pause of young beauty. Disguised as uncle, he picked at your unbroken spine. How to master the silence of an afternoon molestation. Silk on your skin, no armor for the amputee. Birmingham eyes ignoring the winter's confinement. To be born, to be raped, each journey a sudden wave. His touch wore you down to a fugitive eye. The sound of you sucking your thumb at night blows in my ears. All morning, our mother's voice beyond the hills. It's a poem for my sister in haiku form. And the last poem that I will do is for Max Roach, Ten Haku. Max Roach. Anyone heard Max Roach? Google him, okay? Right? And then go buy Freedom Now Sweet, Max Roach and Abby Lincoln, because you can hear it now. But let me give you some history and herstory on that. When it was first done, they banned it because it was so revolutionary, so brilliant, so beautiful, with Abby singing about being enslaved. Master. They banned it from the radio. But now you can buy it. You know why they say that? Because you're not going to do anything with the music anyway. But listen to it, and you will do something with the music. Listen to what people did in a time when we were talking about struggle and change and hope. You know, listen when someone talked about our enslavement, and it wasn't some little nice thing or some joke someplace, you know, but it's something that happened to us as a people. But as I said this afternoon or this morning to the students, look at us today. We have come out of that enslavement, people. Look at us. You can find us every place on the planet Earth doing something. Look at us. We're in these schools. Look at us. We have made these schools survive and be. Look at us. We do things in the world, people. We even can run this world if we wanted to. If we could turn off the television sometimes, we probably could. You know, you got to hear that. Because again, we say to you, it's your world. It's time for you on this campus become activists. Go to your classes, right. But there are things that are wrong in the universities. There are things that are wrong in the world. There are things that are wrong here in this place. And you've got to begin to talk about it. And as my students used to say, well, we'll do it when I graduate from law school. No, you won't, sucker. If you wait all that time, when you're in undergrad and in grad school and in law school, you do the work then too. So you can learn how to do it, you know, because we need to change the laws that affect us, you know. We need to support President Obama. We need to, when the right goes crazy in the Congress, we need to go down. I was telling to this great young poet here, we need to go down. We need to go down to Washington, D.C. and sit in their offices until they do right. Oh, yeah, we used to do that. You sit down until they do right. Right. They will arrest you, granted, okay? Right? You know, but first you come out, you get out, and you send another people in. How do you think you are in these schools today and do what you do today? Because people did that. People, when someone asked Toni Morrison, do you vote? And she looked up at Charlie Rose and said, oh, yes, I vote. I remember Fannie Lou Hamer. I remember all those people hosed down and hurt and killed. She said, when I vote, it's like a small prayer by the road. So every time I get up and I see you and I teach you, my brothers and my sisters, you are like a small prayer by the road. I know what you can do and what you must do. I know that this is not the end of us here in this 21st century. I know that you will pick up those mantles and do the work that needs to be done. And so when the people will say to Obama, because you have got to look and see what they said, from the moment he was saying this induction ceremony, you know, the Chief Justice gave him the wrong words. I was in Washington, D.C., you know, with Dr. Haidt. I said, it begins already. Because that was on purpose, whatever. Obama said the right thing. The newspaper said Obama got it wrong. He didn't get it wrong. The Chief Justice, I just forgot. No, you didn't, sucker. You did it on purpose. You thought he was going to say the wrong words. He said the right words. When he gives his speech, someone said, liar. Come on, remember that. That not only hurt him, that hurt us as a people. You can't lean back and say, oh, he said liar. Didn't mean nothing. Yes, he did. He was calling us all liars. You know, liars. You know, the next time they do that, we all gather together and march out and stop Washington. Washington will not move until they give the respect that is due us as a people in this country. You hear that? But you go in. It's not easy to get into Congress anymore, you know? But you just go into Congress, and when someone said, you know, those Southern Democrats said something wrong, you boo them. They put you out again. you know, but they don't like that kind of attention. So they get very quiet and they back up. But you've got to say to people, you cannot continue to disrespect us. You can't diss us like that and think we're going to lean back and do nothing about it. You can't do it. You can't let it happen. Too many people died for you. Died for you. They didn't go and do some dainty minuet. They died for you so you could speak. Malcolm walked on this earth, and what did he do? He kept us from being scared. Because when Malcolm spoke on the radio the next day, I got on the subway, and when the guy leaned, because the guys would lean up against you, these white guys coming from Long Island and rub you, right? I turned after I heard Malcolm said, you know what Malcolm said? They backed away. You got to hear that. You got to know that you deserve to be who you are. You deserve to be walking on this earth. You deserve to be in these schools. You deserve to be a congresswoman if you want to be one, or a senator if you want to be one. You deserve to be whatever you want to be, but you have to work for it. And as I said this afternoon or this morning, in these classes that you do, you cannot afford to let anyone fail. When you see someone fail in the class, you got to say to that person, come join our study group. Because you do know people of color learn better in groups. That's not for me. It's been proved. I used to walk years ago and watch Asian students always studying together. Yeah, and I stopped. I remember I stopped and asked them, said, do you always study together? They said, yes. I said, why? Because we learn more that way. So I started making my students, when they came to my class, I put them in groups. Whatever, so therefore they studied together, they got better grades. You do that too. If 100 or 50 students come in 1 year, 54 years later must graduate. You don't laugh at someone because she gets it wrong, he gets it wrong, and you think that's going to make you better. It doesn't make you better. Not at all. It means we all are failing when that one person fails. Understand, we are our sisters and our brothers' keepers. We are responsible for each other. And even though you think you don't, you're not, you are. And one other thing, you got to stop fighting each other. You got to stop going to parties, fighting each other. If you're a Kappa, if you're an Alpha, if you're Q, what? Huh? You're going to fight somebody over some girl? Huh? You got to stop fighting each other. And if you're a sister, if you're an AKA or a Delta, a Zeta, right? You got to stop talking about, I'm not going to talk to her. Let's not be fools. That's not why those organizations were organized and started. They were started because of a humane need for us to do good for our people, not to party all the time. Yeah, I'm an AKA, and I understand what that means. My duty to my people and to the world. See, not just to be cute and look cute in pink and green, if you're Delta in red, whatever. Come on. There's a higher calling here. And so for 1 week, I give you an assignment. 1 week, I gave it to you early. Do not talk. Do not twist your tongue and say anything negative about anybody. 1 week. 1 week. Do not talk against each other. 1 week. It's hard to do, people. Because as some sister said to me up at Harvard, I don't know, Professor Sanchez, she needs to be talked about. I said, why? Because she thinks she's so cute. I said, maybe she is cute. Maybe we all cute. That's not the point. The point is we don't need. If you talk against people, you will eventually kill somebody. You will hit somebody and kill somebody. And at these frat parties, we now are known for hurting and killing people and being in fights. I had to go and break up a fight at Temple. You know what I did? I said, we're going to meet after my Wednesday night class. It ends at 9 o'clock. We're going to meet from 9 to 11 in the dorms. You better show up. I will knock on your bloody doors and make sure you show. And I'm going to tell you why you're here at Temple University. It was not an easy way. This is not a black university. Why you're here? When I first came to Temple, I said, what happened? The white kids were beating up the black kids. Ain't that something in the dorms? And now in the dorms, you got black people beating up each other. Huh? Are we insane? And you got to hear that. If you hear nothing else, you got to hear that. You know, you're not cool killing each other, people. Because America says, oh, by golly, by gee, look at that, Philadelphia. Oh, the city of murderers. They're killing each other. Good, get rid of the niggers. Got to get rid of the niggers. I'm so sick and tired of them niggers. You know, them hooded people. Huh? Let's kill them. We don't have to do it. They're going to kill each other. And so all of a sudden the free guns come into our neighborhoods. Why does that happen? Free good food doesn't come into the stores, right? Huh? You know that? No, but guns come in. And the gun is an interesting thing in the hands of children. Because they think really, like the movies, you fire it, you're not going to die. You know. And so I wanted to say that, and I hope you hear it. I hope you don't take it, you know, as if I'm preaching to you. I am. I hope you don't think that it's something that a woman would say to her children. It's true. You are my children, you know. And I can tell you, teaching 5 years in Gradyford Prison, my brothers and my sisters, teaching 5 years. So when I walked in the first day and said, when some of you all get out of here, I had a class of 50 men, you know, you can come until Temple University and I'll help you get in. And they all fell out laughing. They were all lifers. What have they done? They'd gone off to war, a war called Vietnam. They'd learned how to kill, but they also had gotten a habit overseas. They came back home, and what did they do? You know, the country did not detox them from war and killing. So what they knew is that they could kill, and they had a habit. And imagine going to war, landed them in Gradyford Prison for the rest of their lives. I'm saying to you, my brothers and my sisters, I am expecting an intelligence here. I am expecting from you that you use your intellect, that this country makes us always deal with always below the stomach. Anything below the stomach, deal with. Okay? But anything above the stomach, where the heart and the head and the brain reside, don't use it. And this century, going into the second decade of this century, we must say out loud, when I walk out of my house every morning, I am going to be what my ancestors wanted me to be. A young man striving to be. Maybe not doing all that I can do, but striving to be. And a young woman striving to be. Maybe taking some chances, but striving to be. Because we have got to understand that it is we who will save this country. No doubt about it. We people of color will save this color. We won that election for Obama. We people of color. We women. You know that? Yes, we did. We women, we young people, we gays and lesbians, we won this election for that Obama. And we must also make sure, however, that he understands that there are things that we want as a consequence of that. And we must write the letters and go down. And we must also tell the right that they will never, 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 never win in this country as long as we are walking on this earth. This is for a man by the name of Max Roach, Tin Haku. Nothing ends. Every blade of grass, remembering your sound. Your sounds exploding in the universe return to earth in prayer. Da-boom, da-boom, da-boom. As you drum, your hands kept reaching for God. The morning sky so lovely imitates your laughter. You came, warrior clear, your music kissing our spines, feet tapping, singing, impeach our blood. You came drumming sweet life on sails of flesh. Da-boom, da-boom, da-boom. Your fast beat right in the air settles in our bones. Your drums soloing our breaths unto the beat, unbeat, unto the beat, unbeat, unto the beat, unbeat. Your hands shimmering on the legs of rain. Your hands shimmering on the legs of rain. For Max wrote that last haiku is inscribed on his tombstone at a place called Woodlawn Cemetery. And so instead of going to Europe to look at some of the European writers who died, go to Woodlawn Cemetery. You would see our geniuses. You would see Duke Ellington up there and Miles Davis. Miles said before he died, I want to be buried right next to the Duke. And he is buried right next to the Duke. So Miles was cool even in death. You know, and all these other musicians there. And Max is right there also, too. And it is something to go and sit and listen to them still making jazz on a Sunday afternoon. Take good care of yourselves. Know if you work very hard, it will get better. Ibe yi. Those are Twi words. It means it'll get better. Ibe, Ibe yi 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 Ibe, Ibe yi 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 Ibe, Ibe yi 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 yi. It'll get better. It'll get better. It'll get better. Because we have faith in you, our children, that you will make it better. Thank you.